All right, this one goes out to all the lesbians, to all the people from the island of Lesbos, all the sapphics, and anybody interested in parthenogenesis and asexual reproduction. I had done a little book on this before, but I'm better, smarter, faster, uh, better looking. So we're gonna do this with way more detail and with much better evidence than I ever did before, since I'm better at researching now. Oh yeah, so women without men. This is what this presentation is called. Maybe I'll. This is just going to be me talking, so we'll just get through it. Women without men. An ancient and medieval textual dossier on women-only societies, fatherless conception, and the queen, Califia, and her story. So, our research question. Do ancient or medieval texts preserve stories of communities of women who live apart from men and reproduce without sexual intercourse with males? If so, how closely do those stories resemble Amazon and California traditions? So, I started asking this question because for me, Queen Calipha, Amazon, parthenogenesis, these are all related. And when I hear as when I hear the Queen Khalifa story personally, as a non-heterosexual, non-man, I am hearing that men got their hands on this story. Like, it's very obvious. Like, when you read, like, okay, there is an island of women. Like, when you read Khalifa's story, right? There's an island of women, and they live without men, right? And in this island, they would invite men every now and again to come to the island, and then they'd have sex, have some babies, go back to the island, and then if any males were born, they would kill those males and keep the women and continue their society like that, right? And they had their own warrior class and everything, right? But to me, I know that parthenogenesis is real. And then you get back to like biblical stories, Mary the Virgin, all that stuff, right? I know this to be real in my heart. I don't care who agrees with me. So I know this is bullshit. Like of course men would see an island of women and be like, we have to insert ourselves in this story. Nobody can ever know that these women are witches. And they can birth babies themselves, right? So I went on the hunt and I was like, there has to be an older story without the men coming to the island, because women in not captivity, in isolation, like female species on this planet, when in isolation, because the female was first and the male is a mutation, women will just start reproducing asexually in isolation. This is a natural occurrence. People say they have no records, like it's never happened in human history, but we have thousands of stories of this happening in human history. Nobody ever believes it, or they go and change the child from a female child to a male child. If you are having parthenogenesis, asexual reproduction, the childbirth can only be female. In fact, if a male was born and continued to live out their life, you would think that this would be such a major thing. This would be a story known across the earth because because it scientifically should be impossible. And if it were possible, that would be the story of the first man ever being conceived and living to speak the tale. So that should be some huge thing right now. But instead, you have all these stories of the virgin birth where somehow miraculously a man was born. Couldn't be. So I think, to me, it sounds like all those stories where virgin birth was happened and that child came into being to be a man. All of those characters should be women. Not one of them should be a man. And if we could go back far enough or break into the Vatican, you probably could find the original female versions of those stories, because it all goes back to the time when men did not exist and women reproduced asexually. They called them the hermaphrodites. And this is like biblical shit. Like, this is, these are known ancient stories. Okay, so let's get into this more. I'm probably going to have to make a part two. Okay, so findings. So, yes, at least four early eyewitnesses explicitly describe women only populations conceiving without intercourse with men. The closest surviving Western witness is Mela. Pomponius Mela. Writing around 43 CE, Chinese traditions add conception by a pool, by a divine well, and by entering water. Medieval Arabic geography adds conception by wind or fruit and an all female island ruled by a queen. That's really interesting because we know asexual reproduction in other species happens without a magical pool. So I wonder if this pool is just them witnessing that these women, their tradition is a water birth. Okay, so let's hop in. So, executive conclusion and evidence scale. So the striking result is not merely that individual goddesses give birth without partners. Several texts imagine an entire country or island whose population consists of women whose continuation does not require intercourse with men. This precise combination is rare but real. So Pomponius Mela, women only community? Yes. No male intercourse? Yes. Island? Yes. Queen slash warriors? No queen, but they were warriors because it was only them. So if somebody was warriors, right? Okay, so Shanhai Jing plus Gopu. I know I butchered that. Sorry. So woman only community? Yes. No males? Yes. Island? Yes, but no queen. But also, if you think about it, especially because my whole theory is this all comes back to ancient America. Uh, a lot of these really ancient societies, because these, in current year dates, this stuff I think is coming to the year 1100-ish, around there, right? So this is old stories, right? So back then, this system of king and queen that we have today, sometimes not everybody had that. So they had systems, but the colonizers would be like, oh, that's the queen, just because that's the person who showed up and had authority. And they, might be considered a person of authority, but we didn't necessarily have these same rulership systems. So there was no queen, but to me, there's still so many markers that could still be the same story. So in Arabic, warwak, or wak complex, I don't know. Sorry, it's WAQ. So women only, yes, in some versions, right? So this was in order, right? When the furthest back to most recent, right? So soon as we start getting to the Arabic and the Muslims, suddenly only some versions of this story that still highly relates to the central archetype, we start changing it. We start adding men into the story because we don't want these women to know what their bodies are capable of, right? So, women only in Arabic, yes. No male intercourse, yes, in some versions, or in some versions for both, right? And then island, they all live on an island, yes, absolutely. And then, is there a queen? Yes, now there's a queen. Once we started editing the story, we started putting in men, saying they need men to live, and we started saying that there was a queen, that there was this hierarchical leadership that turns into oligarchy. So Strabos is Amazons. Women only community said mostly separate. No male intercourse? No, because now we've entered men into the picture, right? Island of water? Yes. Queen? Yes. And the queen part, or central leadership part, is important because in the story of Califia and in these stories, as we'll get into in the other parts, they speak of the leader woman who is a Amazon type of woman. She goes out to fight for her people. And this is a key part of the story. So having this main leader helps you re-identify with this central theme and what is most likely one story told over generations.